Okay.
So, Shell, you
Yeah.
still attending First Presbyterian Town and Country?
I am.
How's it going there?
It's okay. It's, we can't seem to find any kids or families or anything like that. That's always a conversation.
Really?
Yeah, they just don't, we can't find any. We don't know where they are.
No kids around here?
We don't see any playing around or, none of them are on their tricycles or riding their bikes up and down the street or playing out in the yard. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you find kids?
Well, maybe there aren't any kids.
That's true. Well, then what are we going to do?
Gosh, I really don't know. I guess maybe we'll just keep on doing what we keep on doing and serving ourselves.
And getting older and
grayer.
Yeah, I know who's going to do
You're
the
not
work.
getting grayer, are you?
I try not to. Yeah. There's just secrets for girls for that.
The good news, folks, is Shelley and I and all of you have access to a really cool set of programs. So the question Shelley asked, or the comment that Shelley made was, there are no kids in this neighborhood. And the reason is because when I was a young man, which was back when Moses was a small boy, you could tell where the children were because there were tricycles out in the front and there were bicycles on the grass and kids playing, hoops and hula hoops and all. Hula hoops, you remember hula hoops?
I do.
Okay, so you really are old.
I am.
Okay. Nowadays, because of the way things are going with children being kidnapped and whatnot, kids are playing indoors or they're in some structured activity inside of a building. So when you drive down a street, there's really no way to know whether that house has children in it, or whether it has school-age children, or whether it has teenagers, high schoolers, college-age kids, whether it's an empty nester couple, or whether they're retired. So the problem for congregations is, how do we get this information? Well, fortunately, through the auspices of the presbytery, you have access to that. All of you have access to that information. So the question that you need to be thinking about is, what is the neighborhood demographic profile? The area around our church here, First Presbyterian Town and Country, not to malign Pines or any other congregation, who are the people that are living here? What's the population, the household trends? What's the racial and ethnic demographics? How old are they? Do they have any school-age children? What's their household income? What marital status, educational attainment, those kinds of things. The question is this kind of information available? And the answer is yes. And I'm here to tell you, it's the same kind of information that major corporations commission when they're getting ready to start a business or open a store or whatnot. If you have a building and you're going to rent it out and the neighborhood happens to be composed predominantly of people who are empty nesters, the types of businesses that you would put into that storefront would be different than if that neighborhood was composed primarily of young families, or if it was composed primarily of people who are young marrieds but have no children yet. So knowing this kind of information when a child care center gets ready to open up, or a what do they call them, brew pub, or a new fashion store, the first thing they do is they go commission a demographic study. And the beauty of it is we have access to that same kind of information.
And the more beauty is that it's free, thanks to our presbytery.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have heard of Mission Insite, but it is free for you to register and sign up, and we're going to tell you just all the information that you can get. It is just mind-blowing how much information you can get from this study.
The information we're going to give you today is really just a 30,000-foot view. When you actually log on, and at the end of the presentation, we'll show you how to do that. When you log on and get your own personal account,
Yep.
not
the
a church
one,
account,
your
it's
own.
your account. You can go in and you can run all kinds of demographic studies for $0. And as Shelley said, it's thanks in great part to the contributions that individual congregations provide as part of their benevolence to the presbytery. So if you're not using it, you're not getting full value for your money. So the question is, this happens to be a map of this area right here. And what we're trying to show you is the software allows you to either do something simple like a radius. Give me a radius of 1 mile around the church building, or 2 miles, or 10 miles, or 100 miles, or whatever you want. Or you can actually draw a polygon if you want. And as you can see here, this church right here, whoa, hello.
Whoa, too many buttons.
Too many buttons. This church is positioned right there. But this is a reservoir, and this is a reservoir. Nobody lives in the reservoir, and if they did, they've been washed out by Harvey. So if this, wrong button, sorry, if this church is trying to figure out how many people live over here, and they expand this radius, they're also picking up that reservoir. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the good news about the polygon is that, especially area, like he said, if there's an industrial part around it, or so, you can map that so that it doesn't include that part, that you're really only including, or like I've mapped mine for Heritage, I mapped it not south of 529, because I don't think anybody maybe will go there, but just for an example. So you can really just specifically target an area, make it bigger, make it smaller. It's really phenomenal how you can do that.
The question that most people ask when they start getting into Mission Insight is, well, how big of a radius, because the radius is the easy one, well, how big a radius should we start looking at? And I will tell you that my answer to that is 1 mile. And people go, oh, well, we have people that come from farther than that. In fact, we have, oh, Shelley, she lives 25 miles away. So shouldn't we do a 25-mile radius?
Yeah.
The answer is no. And the reason is because if you go out much beyond 1 mile, you are including so much into the mix. It's like, you know, these cake mixes where you have chocolate and vanilla and you just kind of stir it a little bit. But if you put it in and mix it up for 10 minutes, it's going to be, what, brownish?
Light brown. Yeah.
Light brown cake. It's not going to give you the answers that you
marble.
want. So, about what size radius to draw. If you draw this as let's say this is a 3-mile oval around your church building, this might be 1 mile that you do up in that corner, or you might do 1 mile radius here or 1 mile radius there. Now you're beginning to zero in and target neighborhoods, and you're getting information about specific neighborhood, not what's in the 25-mile radius, because the reality is the 25-mile radius doesn't really matter. What matters is what's the ministry and mission that we need to be doing for a gated community versus the ministry and mission for a single family, ministry and mission for apartments. We don't, as Shelley said, care too much about the industrial, and we don't care about the retail. Although a congregation like this one that has a huge retail complex right over here might decide we still want to know, if we can, who's in there, because that might be noontime ministry and mission, it might be after work ministry and mission. There may be some things we can do as opposed to just cutting it off and saying we don't really care what happens because that's commercial. All right, you ready?
Sure.
Knock them out.
Okay, so this is like really super small, but when part of the information you get is the trends. What's the history? You know, what were things like this trend gives you from 2000, like the total population.
This is 2000.
Breaks it down to households, population. What's population slash
households? This is the population of the study area. And you can see in the year 2000, the population, this is a 1 mile radius around this church, right here. So in the year 2000, there were 10,973 human beings in this 1 mile radius.
In that 1 mile radius, yeah.
2010, the population went up to 11,726. Currently, it's 13,867. In
And it's
2023,
projected to grow.
it's projected to grow up to 14,000.
So that's the first bit of information you're getting, is that you're around your church, people are still moving in.
It's a growth area.
It's a growth area. So which is good to know. Tells you how many, well, and out of that, how many households there are, and it predicts family households. It breaks all that down for the trend, for past and through the future.
So as a first blush, this information isn't going to tell you what to do. You need to ask the questions of the data. So we know from this the almost 20 years of population in this area, 1 mile around here, is growing, right? So if the membership of this church isn't also growing, that tells you there's some area for ministry and mission. There may be some things that you need to be doing in order to at least stay with the population trends, because as more people move in, your congregation should grow. You ready?
Sure.
Go.
So one of the next things that you find out is your racial ethnic makeup of this 1 mile radius of the church. As you can see, the green is 73% white non-Hispanic folks. So that tells you the largest population, obviously, is white Hispanic. Non-Hispanic, I'm sorry. Another larger, the blue one is Asian, non-Hispanic. You've got Hispanic, Latino, is the next largest, and then you have some Pacific Island, American Indian, other non-Hispanics, and then you have a small percentage of black African American non-Hispanic.
And again,
and it gives you in numbers and in graphs, so whichever you are more comfortable with.
and it gives you percentages. So if you didn't, the numbers are fine to know that 73% of the people that live in a 1 mile radius are white, non-Hispanic. But the question is, how many are there? Well, the data tells you that. So here's white, non-Hispanic. The arrow points to the year 2018. So you can see there's 10,123 white, non-Hispanics within a 1 mile radius of here. Now that's children, school-age children, adults, retired people, population in this area.
And that little green section is the change from 2010 to 2023. So for white non-Hispanic, the change from 2010 to the estimated 2023 will be 2,000 people.
So we have 2,000 coming in to this area in that demographic. The number of Asians, for example, is going to grow by 646. The number of Hispanics, Latinos is going to grow by 391. Again, this isn't telling you what to do, but it's informing your ministry and mission. So if historically your congregation, if you look at, say, 2010 and you see that your percentage of Latino Hispanics was lower back then, but now it's getting higher, that tells you that this is a population. If it's not well represented in your pews, you need to start figuring out how do we engage with them, because they are here. It's not that they aren't here because they're not in the pews. It's maybe we're not getting outside the walls.
Just making the connection with them.
Okay.
Next one, another piece of information are age trends. So in this 1 mile of this church, average population age is,
40.
It's basically 40. And it stays between 40 and 42 from 2010 through 2028.
So what does that tell you?
Consistency.
Yeah, it's kind of what you see out there is what you're going to get. It's not that there's a huge influx of children or a huge exit of children. The average age is going to stay within 1 or 2.
It's not basically going to become like a retirement where everybody's retired and they're all older, or that they all move out and they all just bring small, children or families with small children. It's pretty consistent, which also tells you they're working. Mm-hmm. They're probably professional worker. They're 9-to-5 jobs probably, or something similar. So they're busy folks probably.
So back to Shelley's comment when we did the little skit where she said there's no children in this area, and I would agree. If you drove around a 1 mile radius here, you'd say there are no children in here. However, that's not what the data says. The data says that there are 743 children in this 1 mile radius that are aged 0 to 4, and there's 2,355 that are in required formal schooling, which is age 5 to 17. So there are children out there. The fact that you don't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. Similarly, this...
And there's also over 1,600 college kids.
Yeah.
Kids that are in college. I mean, there's, if you've got
There's a college right across the freeway from here.
college ministry,
Yeah. So, the other thing that it gives you data on is the number of families. And so this tells you that apart from children, which is a data point, the number of households, if you will, that are singles or young families aged 25 to 34 is 1,100. And those that are either families or empty nesters, and I wish they hadn't combined them, but they did. That's age 35 to 54. There's almost 3,400 people here.
Yep.
So this children's slide, or this slide that gives you the 2,355 children, you say, well, that's really great, but that's age 5 to 17. How do I know more specific? Well, just ask. So it breaks down. This is age 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 to 17. And it gives you the numbers and the percentages that each of those populations represent. So as Shelley's beginning to think about a new youth group for the high school age, she has numbers here of how many are potentially available. If somebody's looking at, we've just hired a new children's ministry director, and that person wants to know, are there any kids that are in the school age, but the younger school age? We've got the answer right here.
And again, it's broken down on the bottom one is on a graph, if you like graphs more. Colors and lines. It gives you household income trends. So this tells you that, let's see, let's just pick a number. What's the biggest number? The biggest number would be 28.93%. Okay, yeah. So within this 1 mile radius, for salary income of $200,000 or more, almost 29% of the people. That is the largest in this study area.
So what does that tell you? This is a higher income neighborhood, but it tells you this is a neighborhood that potentially could be drawn into your congregation and using some of their financial resources to help with ministry and mission outside the walls of the church. So it's not just about pledge cards. I don't remember who said that. It's about, this is part of time, talent, and treasure.
Right. Well, it also tells you, I mean, Steve just said here, Presbyterians are known to be educated and smart. I mean, probably 29% people are probably well educated.
Or welders.
Or they just have a really good job.
Or plumbers or electricians, if you've ever done any of that. All right.
Okay, so then now it also breaks down types: single person households, family households, non-family households.
So family households would be everybody in the household is related. It may be a mom and a dad and their children, their adult children, with also some of their children all living in the home because of maybe a divorce or an economic circumstance. But that's a family household. A non-family household might be where you have two people living together as roommates.
Yeah.
They're not in a romantic
like
relationship.
kids.
They're just sharing a room or
Yeah.
sharing an apartment over here in City Center.
So by far, you saw from that, family households was by far the largest household type in this 1 mile radius. Gives you marital status trends. Never married, married, divorced, separated, widowed. It breaks it out by population in family households, non-family, and in group quarters. Is that like an apartment, right?
Yeah, I think that's...
Or like a retirement home?
Yeah, or a nursing home or, that kind of thing. So again, these inform your ministry and your mission. If you find that you've got a population of widowed people, that tells you that you might want to think about ministry to that age or demographic group, as opposed to just throwing more time and effort into messy church, for example, which tends to lean a little bit into children.
Well, but this, I mean, this also tells you 65% are married with children probably. Messy church might be a fun thing for them.
Yeah.
Gets them in the door. Gives you information on education. Here, we've already talked about that. So let's see, in this 1 mile radius, the greatest percentage right now is a bachelor's degree and a graduate or professional school. So that's almost 76, 77%
Of the
population.
Of the 9,000.
Of the 9,000 are bachelor or graduate or professional school. So gives you some more information about your people. Occupations, wow, it even gives you occupations. So let's see, these are really small. So the majority, let's see, educational services is 17%. We've got some financial insurance real estate at 12%. Manufacturing, 9%, I guess that's the thing over there. Professional services, 20%. Wholesale retail, I guess that's the retail, huh? 11%. Anyway, breaks down what kind of jobs people have. Okay, personal and religious spiritual preferences. I mean, we just really know a lot about these people.
Yeah, so what this chart is showing you, if you look at this line right here, this is no change whatsoever. So what this is saying is that in terms of personal growth, this 1 mile area compared to the national average, that it's 2.5% less interest in personal growth. So putting out lots of programs with personal growth isn't necessarily going to engage with this community, possibly because they're already college educated and they're upper income, and personal growth right now isn't an issue for them. But if they are up and coming people, or they are immigrants, or another demographic that is interested in becoming helped with personal growth, then you know that.
Well, and also, and family support intervention services are low.
Right.
They've gone down. So again, that they're more stable. They're not in need of intervention services.
And that's
as much.
everything from divorce support groups to substance abuse, substance use, anything where there's a need for family intervention or other support.
And they are by far interested in the community.
Yes. That's
Community
just
involvement and advocacy programs, community activities, or cultural programs. By far, those are the ones that have grown the most.
3.5% greater interest in those than the national average.
And then the last one's religious and spiritual.
Down here. So this is a spiritual neighborhood as opposed to one that's less spiritual. So again, if you say, well, there's nobody around here, they're all at the tennis courts, they're not interested in going to church. Maybe that's not particularly true.
Well, and maybe they're not interested in coming to Sunday morning church, sitting in a worship service. Maybe they're more interested if you did, ministry in a community kind of way to hook, or, to at least make that connection.
Now, we're getting into some pretty interesting deep dive information. So here is program and ministry preferences of people that live in this 1 mile radius. And they have categorized them. The red circles are the broad categories. This is personal growth. This is family support and intervention, community involvement, community activities, and religious and spiritual. But then they subdivide those down. So of the 32% who are moderately interested in personal growth, 20 something rather, are interested in addiction support groups. This is health and weight loss programs. This is practical training services. So it's not just giving you 30,000-foot view. It's starting to dial down, drill down into the data.
But the community involvement, one that was growing, the highest, 55% of the moderately important adult social activities, involvement in social causes, social justice advocacy work, opportunities for volunteering in the community, cultural programs, holiday programs, seniors retiree activities, youth social activities. Those are all important.
Now, we're going to explain to you the various types of reports pulled. What we're showing here is kind of a smattering of things. One of the reports is called the Quadrennial Report, and it looks at religious and spiritual interests and involvement, and it actually drills down, again, into whatever your study area is, about beliefs in God in general, beliefs about Jesus, beliefs about social and moral issues, and, here's the big one, religious preferences. So we start out here, I can't read it. At the top, it comes down, it says Adventist, Baptist, Buddhist, Catholic, Congregationalist, Episcopalian, Holiness, Islam, Jehovah's Witness, Judaism, Lutheran, Methodist, Mormon, and finally you get down to us, which is this one right here. And what this says is that
No, we're the third from the bottom. Presbyterian Reformed.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
That one's no religious preference.
I'm
Is
sorry.
circled.
Thank you for correcting it. 3% of the people in this study area identify that they are either currently or have a background in the Presbyterian or the Reformed faith. Now, the other thing that this really helps us see is this issue of the nuns. Have y'all heard of that? It's not N-U-N-S, it's N-O-N-E-S. People who say, I don't have a religious preference or nothing particular strikes my fancy. In a 1 mile radius around this congregation, it's almost 20% of the people say, that's me. Now, we'll do a little bit more digging. If the study area population, age 18 or 10,776, and that comes from the data, and the nuns are 19.8%, that means there are 2,132 people within a 1 mile radius of this church that say, I don't have a religious preference. So when somebody like Shelley, smart as she is, says, oh, well, everybody around here is Mormon, or everybody around here is Lutheran, or everybody goes to the Catholic
Everyone around here
church.
is Catholic or
well, they all go
Baptist
down to the
by-
Baptist, they all go down to Tallowood Baptist Church. The answer to that is not necessarily. There are still 2,130 people who aren't affiliated with some other faith tradition that you have the possibility of engaging with. So when you say there's no children in the neighborhood, Shelley,
Not true.
or you say everybody's a Baptist,
Not
or a
true.
Catholic, or a Methodist,
Not true.
not true.
And I'd like to say one addition to all this information. All this information is I mean, it's, as you can see, there's a lot of it. It's great information. But one of the things I feel strongly about is it's not about getting people sitting in your pews. It's about connecting to people. Here we are, we're the disciples and apostles. It's about connecting people and showing them the love of God. That, in my opinion, should be our foremost reason for seeing who we try and connect with. So that's my soapbox.
And to riff on that a little bit, if we go out into the community and we engage with people who want to work with us on a project or whatever, but they end up saying, I think I want to go down to the Tallowood Baptist.
Hey,
Rock
thanks
on.
for being here.
Rock on.
Yep, absolutely.
Because this is not about getting
Right, butts in the pews.
Butts in the pews. Thank you for saying that. 'Cause
I'm not
if
even
you
gonna
said it, then I
apologize.
know, because you're synod and all that. It's not about bucks and butts. It's about being apostles. Matthew 28:19, going into the world, making disciples, teaching the faith, and if they learn that faith at Tallowood or the Catholic Church or the Methodist Church or the Lutheran Church, rock on.
All is good.
Okay? Some of them will come here. There will be some flow in here simply because people will go on a mission project like we at this congregation last year did, Feed My Starving Children. We had 500 people that are not part of our congregation that came together to pack, what was it, 2 million meals? How many meals did we pack with Feed My Starving Children? No, meals. Yeah, 130,000 meals. So as you're putting beans and rice and vitamin C and whatever all they put into those packages, and you're rubbing shoulders with a person maybe who's a nun, but heard about this project and wants to be part of it because they're part of a community that is involved in community involvement, and they're rubbing shoulders with a member of Pines, and they say, whoa, this is your church? Well, tell me a little bit about it. And the next thing you know, we have Bible studies and we have Sunday schools, and you ought to come to worship. You're welcome. It's an open, engaging congregation. We're not trying to proselytize, but if this is where you want to explore your faith, we would love to have you.
Well, and also, sometimes they just need to walk into the door to see that it's not this scary place that's got weirdo people that are gonna
Jump
do
you.
all stuff all over, and they see that they're just, you're just like me.
They're just like Shelley,
we're just like
you
real
know?
people, and this isn't a scary building, and there's not a room that we take you to that, we do like some special
Well, we
stuff.
do have that room, but,
Well,
but
I've
you've never seen it.
I haven't. But anyway, that's it, again, connection, making connections, however to do that.
One of the other things that the combination of reports, and there's 5 reports, and again, I'll explain those in just a moment, is that you can get this data in what are called mosaic snapshots. A mosaic is where they take, does it explain? Oh, okay, it's a geodemographic segmentation system developed by Experian. Anybody know who Experian is? It's one of the 3 credit reporting agencies. So this is not just some Joe or Jane on the street that put an app together. This is put together by a commercial program.
It wasn't done by Dave.
And it's done for marketers. Instead of looking at individual demographic variables, it clusters households into 19 groups that have multiple characteristics in common. So if you looked at me and you said, well, what are some of the characteristics that Dave has? Well, he has children, but they're no longer at home because they're married and have their own children. He and his wife are empty nesters. He's retired. He's good looking. No, that was the other mosaic. Those kind of, they live in a single family household. The household income is about this much money, yada, 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 these 19 characteristics. And they carve everybody that meets those 19 characteristics that are identical, and they put them into a bucket, one of 19 buckets. Or if it's my son, for example, he's relatively newly married, only been married, 8 years? How long has he been married? I don't know. I should know this, right?
You should know it more than I should.
Okay, 8 years. He's got one child, 2.5 years old. He works, his wife works, yada, yada, yada. Their household income is this. He's not in the same bucket or demographic segmentation that I'm in. He's in a different one. So as you look at this mosaic report for whatever your study area is, it'll tell you what percentage are people that are in my category, what percentage of people are in my son's kind of category, what percentage of people are in single households, low income, whatever. So that's instead of having to dive into the data and read all these charts and graphs, which is okay, you still need to do that. This is kind of a quick way to figure out who's around here. So what are the things that the mosaic snapshots are built around? Do you want to read those?
Sure. He mentioned some of them, a lot of them already. Age, household income, home ownership and value, what kind of property style, single family home, group home, length of residence in the community, your household size, age of children, educational attainment, media preference. If they prefer mail, text, email, if they're, maybe they're on Twitter, or I don't know if it probably tells you that. And their technology comfort, which kind of meets into the one right before that, which gives you a way of how do I connect with them media-wise. Do I need to send a newsletter, or can I send him a text?
Yeah, so if you send my son, who's 30, how old is he?
I don't know.
I don't know, he's 35 years old. If you send my son something in the mail from Pines Presbyterian and say, hey, we're having a hot dog cook-off, he isn't even going to open it. It's in the garbage.
It's going to go in the junk mail.
Because that's not his preferred thing. He doesn't even respond to an email, not even from his dad. His dad has to text message him. Do you want to go to dinner and I'm paying? If I put that in an email, I don't ever get an answer. But if I text him, boy, he's right on it. And if we get into a protracted discussion about where should we go to dinner, because he lives in the Heights with his wife and my wonderful granddaughter. Did I tell you about her?
2.5, yeah, you did.
Yeah. If we get into a protracted discussion, the old man in me says, just call me on the phone. No, he wants to text. And we'll have like 30 or 40 text interchanges. He wastes my data plan when we could get this done in a minute.
But you still love him.
All right, so what are the 5 reports that I told you that are available?
Oh, okay, there's a quick insight. It's 11 pages. And it says it's good for first-time users because it won't overwhelm you with data.
It's kind of the base.
Yeah.
You want a quick review? That's the one.
The executive insight is pretty much what that included, right? Or is that
No,
this one?
that's this one.
Okay, the executive insight, I have that one. It's pretty much the same information, again, just not as detailed. It's a 16 report. It also includes charitable giving practices from the Simmons Market Research Group and religious program or ministry preferences. So it gives you that information also. Then there's the full insight, 33 pages. And you know what? You wonder, how did they get all this information about me? There's also, and you can come look at this after to see, to get, that's the full insight. Well, okay, we'll pass it around. Impressions, overview of an area's character, including likely overall mood, values, and community inclinations across a set of 20 unique value questions. I have not seen that one, but that is very interesting. I think I'm going to go look at it. The quadrennium includes local community data descriptions for the beliefs landscape, which are beliefs about God, Jesus, and social and moral issues, the religious affiliations and preferences landscape, and the local church landscape, which is faith and religious involvement, reasons for non-participation, life concerns, and program or ministry preferences. That's a lot of information.
So,
interesting information.
This 35 minutes or whatever that we've spent now is just, as I said in the beginning, it's just a flyover of the city. It's just kind of giving you an idea of what's available. The only way to really understand the true potential of Mission Insight is to get your own account, log in, and begin playing with it. You cannot break the system. You cannot put a command in that will cause the database to crash and everybody from the Presbytery will be going, what was this, Steve? We saw you did that. We know exactly when you did it.
Worst case scenario, you mess up and you have to start all over. I did that yesterday, so.
So here's kind of a quick way to think about it. Let's say that you're getting ready to do something about Vacation Bible School, and you've got lots of questions. Should we gear it towards really younger children, or should we gear it towards middle school, middle-aged young people?
Middle school,
What am I saying?
elementary. Middle school,
elementary. That's the word. Well, this will tell us, right? Should we involve their families? Well, if their families work and we decide to do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 8 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, guess how many moms and dads are going to come?
Zero.
Zero.
Or how many are going to get their kids here?
Yeah, how are they going to get them here? Because whatever. So those kinds of questions you want a quick hit, so you target a neighborhood that you want to look at, and you do that quick insight report, and you start looking at it. And as it begins informing you that you say, I need to know a little bit more about this particular aspect. Well, then you can begin running those more detailed reports that if you ran those detailed reports in the beginning would cause your eyes to do the circles.
Too much info.
What do they call that? Googly eyes. You remember googly eyes? Yeah. Nah, you don't remember that. You're too young. So how do you do that? How do you sign up? Go up to the Mission Insight.
MissionInsight.com.
MissionInsight.com.
Insight is spelled I-N-S-I-T-E.
Yeah, it's not I-N-S-I-G-H-T.
No, there's no G-H in it.
And you click on this button up here where it says
Client Center. It's got a little person on it. So top right.
And then you click on registration. And the instructions of how to fill it out are on the Presbytery website. So you go to the Presbytery website, you click on resources, you click on our filing cabinet, you click on Mission Insight, and you download this PDF. And it's got the instructions of exactly how to get Sally your own personal Mission Insight account so that you can go in and demographic information. And when you go to a session meeting and somebody like Shelley says, oh, we're not going to do that because there's no kids around, you can go, not true.
Dave came prepared.
I've got the data. Okay, so that's how you get it. And how much does it cost?
Zero.
Zero.
But it is really, really easy, guys. I don't want you to scare you thinking this is like, this really complex thing. Yes, sir, Steve.
I got the big one right here.
Uh-huh.
Would it be wiser for me to read the executive summary first to get an overview and then drill down into the details?
Yep.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Because again, way too much information, you're just gonna go, but if you just get a general idea, and then you can specifically look at what you wanna see.
So an example of how you might think about targeting and what level of detail, when you get out to some of these, I'll call them suburban areas like Huntsville and whatnot, where not everybody lives in an ever-widening circle. You might have a high-income gated community over here. You might have low-income housing over here. You might have apartments and college students living, because it is Huntsville, right?
It is.
Yeah.
There's
you
college
might
students that
have
live there.
college students
Dorms,
living,
yeah.
dorm living over here. Again, if you do a wide search, you're just getting all that
Mixed
stuff all stirred
information,
together. So you take your binoculars and you turn them to whatever area you want to study. Best idea is 1 mile, unless you know that it's actually 1.5 or 2 miles. And then you pull the quick report or the executive report and you go, that's interesting. We need to know more. And then you start pulling the more detailed reports. You can download the reports to your computer. You don't have to print everyone out.
Yeah.
But if you print everyone out, you better go buy some paper.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of paper.
Because it comes with a lot of paper.
And then, I mean, if you see a group of people that, hey, let's go minister to them, I'm gonna reiterate Steve's why. You gotta have your why,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
just going
Yeah.
out to knock on their doors is gonna
Yeah.
give you nothing.
Yeah,
Gotta have your why.
yeah.
You have your information, you've done your research, gotta have your why.
So we are done, and we're done early.
Yay!
You all are free
Do y'all have any
to-
more questions?
If you have questions, we'll be around here, the rest of you, if you want to get in your cars and get ahead of the Saturday rush hour
The rush hour
traffic,
here.
because there's a rush hour here 7 days a week. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming,
thanks for
and we
coming.
hope this is a tool for you.